Hello there and welcome to the final episode, where today I shall speak to you about the legend of Pitung, a people's hero and a symbol of resistance against Dutch colonizers, whose tragic fate we must discuss immediately. So, my friend, please take a seat. The show has only begun. And where do I start? Where do I begin? Well, let's start with our main bad guys. They will be important after all. The Dutch. They, formerly known as the Netherlands, they have been known for the overseas trade and conquer. Wherever they went, the tricolor of their flag will be raised. Upon their ships that they sail, those three tricolors became a symbol of oppression and colonization. And for hundreds of years, the Dutch planted their own flags upon the lands of Jakarta, known then as the city of Batavia, a center for the Dutch military and merchants alike. Batavia has grown exponentially because for the Dutch it is the heart of their, let's say, colony. And the Dutch reign supreme without a single worry or doubt that any would dare challenge their rule. Until the day, of course, our hero was born. In the village of Rawabalong lived a couple, the patriarch Abah Piun and Nyapinah, the matriarch. These two, they were happy. They loved each other, and their love gave birth to Pitung. Now, Pitung was like any ordinary kid. Of course, at the time of ordinary was watching people be bullied and extorted by the Dutch. He witnessed almost every day how the Dutch acted cruel upon their local subjects. He thought to himself how unjust their actions were. It disgusted him truly. But as a child, there was none to be done, and he was forced to walk away with guilt in his heart. Now, Pitung's father, Abah Piun, always told Pitung to be a man of virtue. So when he reached teenhood, Pitung was sent to study in Haji Naipin's boarding school in Kemayoran. And during his time there, Pitung learned to become a pilgrim, where Haji Naipin with patience told Pitung the way slowly. And Pitung quickly was considered to be one of Haji Naipin's greatest students, quickly mastering the subjects taught to him by Haji Naipin. And Pitung not only learned to become a pilgrim, no, he also learned the ways of a, let's say, a sense of self-defense art. The locals call it silat, and he was a natural in this form, making Pitung to be Haji Naipin's favorite. And now, years later, he graduated and he was to return home to his family, where he bid his farewells to his dear teacher. Pitung told Haji Naipin these words: "Thank you for all these years, dedicating your time to teach me all that you know. Now, teacher, I must go back to my home, where my family awaits." And Haji Naipin couldn't be more proud. He told Pitung that it is my duty to teach you, than to any other who wish to learn from me. Now return home, child, and utilize the knowledge I have given upon you to help the others around you. And please, listen to your parents and tell them I said hi. And Pitung did. When Pitung went back to his home, he was greeted warmly by his parents and was treated to the best dinner he had. And yes, of course, he had mediocre food or something. And from then on, Pitung helped his parents with chores almost every day. Every day he herded the sheep to a land full of grass while his father sold fruits in Tanah Abang. Of course, until one day when he was told by his father to sell 2 of the sheep in Tanah Abang. His father told him, "Do not sell them at too much of a low price." And Pitung nodded. Pitung then made his way to Tanah Abang. Encountering the locals and the market, the stench filled his nose. He was taken aback by the amount of variety there is. But he was still focused, so he sold the sheep to a certain man who gave him a large sum of money. Pitung counted that he had a large profit and he was happy with it. So he went back home until he encountered 3 thugs with devious intentions. One of them went up to him and asked him, "Hey, who are you, young man?" And Pitung told him his name, meaning nothing to these 3 thugs. The thug asked again, "Well, where's your house, Pitung?" And Pitung answered truthfully, "I live in Rawabelong, not far from here." And the thug asked again for a few more questions until he was satisfied and let him go. But unbeknownst to him, his money was swept from his pockets as he was distracted. The other slowly reached into his pocket, grabbing it slowly as to not alert Pitung. But Pitung did not realize such, and he went home happy to report to his father that he made a good profit. And his father was outside of the house waiting for him. "Father, you won't believe how much money I gained from selling those sheep." Pitung shouted at his father from afar. And his father was very pleased. And he began to ask Pitung about the profits. And Pitung began to search deep in his pockets, but he began to panic. Oh. And Pitung's father was like, "Hey, why you look so worried? You alright?" And Pitung was answered truthfully, of course. He told his father, "Father, I think I was robbed. Let me return to retrieve the money. I think I can find the thieves." And then he ran back to where the thugs robbed him. And right now he was filled with rage. He would definitely beat them up. Just a foreshadowing, I mean, it's not really a foreshadowing, is it? If it's like in a few seconds. Anyways, and Pitung went back to Tanah Abang, and sure enough, they were still there, awaiting their next victim. And Pitung, of course, demanded they return the money. The thugs denied, of course, "What? Which money? We don't have any money." Pitung began to rage, boil with rage, yeah. And then it's demanded once more. Yet, not a single word came from them, They're the thugs, they denied ever taking his money, and so Pitung went into action. He used his skills of silat to beat each one of them down to the ground. And he took back his money from the leader's pockets. He said to them, "Do not mess with me again." He said that, and then he returned home. The next day, while he herded the sheep, damn it, I'm sorry. As usual, he was approached by the same three thugs as before. He didn't know their intentions, and of course, they still looked beat up after yesterday's encounter. And like, what are you doing here? What are your motives here? He asked the three thugs, and only after the thugs apologized did he let his guard down. He asked them for their names. My name is Rais, Sir Pitung. My name is Gif, sir. My name is Jabul, sir. And Rais gave Pitung an offer. The true reason why he was there was to give Pitung a position in their gang to help them steal money from the locals, and as they had done before, and with Pitung, of course. But Pitung refused, and he scolded them. He's like, why are you stealing from other locals who have been screwed over by the Dutch? He was in disbelief at the thought of, brothers, sisters robbing each other when they should be fighting against the Dutch or something. And the Rais he was taken aback. And he told Pitung, well, Sir Pitung, we are also poor. Each day we barely have enough to eat. If we weren't poor, we wouldn't have stolen. Pitung, he understood, and he smirked as he leaned closer to them, and as an idea popped in his mind. He told them the idea, a special plan that he had in mind. But what did he say to them? Because apparently the three thugs, they were willing. They joined in on Pitung's plan. Well, that would be soon answered, but later that night, Pitung and his thugs began to climb over the walls of a wealthy Dutch aristocrat's home. They kicked down the door quietly, and they began to steal his possessions and money. Where during daylight, they would share the wealth with the poor people. They gave every last piece of gold that they stole back to the people, and the people cheered them on, while the Dutch aristocrat filed in a report for a break-in. And they did not even take a single one of that piece of gold for themselves. No, they gave it back to the people, every square inch of gold. And for months they continued, house after house, Dutch after Dutch. And as the reports began to pile up, the Dutch eventually became weary enough that they sent soldiers on patrol instead of policemen. They began looking for Pitung and his gang everywhere in Batavia. And this increased level of wariness and high security level type of thing from the Dutch caught up with Pitung, as they became the Dutch most wanted. And each day passing, Pitung's gang will be closer and closer to being captured, until one day, bang! One of the soldiers fired a shot, and Jabul was shot by Dutch rifles. He fell dead on the ground. He did not move, for blood covered his body. He died on the spot, and the Pitung, Rais, and GF can do nothing but run. They kept stealing. They kept pushing on even though they lost one of their members. But it was nothing. It was the effort they did. It did not work. GF died by the bullets as well. And the elite Dutch soldiers also then caught up and killed Rais, while Pitung managed to escape. But Pitung, was he captured as well? Or was he killed? Well, lads, let me tell you the answer. Guess what? They did not. They weren't able to kill Pitung. Why? Well, let's say a squad of Dutch soldiers, they They fired their bolt-action rifles at Pitung, but each bullet seems to just plop. They hit Pitung. They should have killed Pitung, but he did not die. Why is that? Well, lads, let me tell you why. Because when he learned Silat, he also learned a technique that made him immune to bullets, impervious. Then he told the Dutch, "Hey, you soldiers, I am Pitung of Rawabelong. I am not afraid of the Dutch. And as long as you are here, I shall never rest." Well, he said that as he ran, but so I don't think the Dutch really caught that, but I think they get his idea. And day after day, the Dutch became to get tired as Pitung just ran into them, got shot and lived, and still managed to steal some money before escaping as well. But this is not a good ending. There's no good ending to this story, lads. No. I said in the beginning this will be tragic. And you know why? Well, let me tell you why. The Dutch began to crack down. Yes, they did begin to weaken. Their morale began to slow down. But why do I say tragic? Well, guess what? One of the Dutch spy will spill the secrets he learned from Haji Naipin himself that a bullet made of gold will penetrate his skin and finally kill him. And so the Dutch prepared rifles with gold as their ammunition, and they began to go out of their forts for the first time in a few months. No, not a few months, but a few weeks. They were scared of Pitung beating them up, so they had hid in their own forts. But they went out anyways, and they searched for Pitung all across Batavia. And there, one of the soldiers began to aim, hiding behind a bush where Pitung was talking to one of his friends or locals. Gun smoke dissipates from around the corner. A gunshot, a single blast really, was heard across the village. Pitung realized his techniques has been exposed. He did not realize he has been letting his guards down ever since he enjoyed using his technique in front of the Dutch, not fearing that anything will stop him. He was too late. He held his stomach, but blood it just kept pouring out. He then fell. He coughed up blood. He looked up and he fell down. The people surrounded him and they cried, but as the Dutch soldiers behind them cheered on. "Pitung was dead!" they called out. But still Pitung was no more. And today, Pitung is still remembered for his heroics and his stance against the Dutch. Many still come to his grave in Rawabelong in Jakarta to pay their respects, as he was buried where he last stand. And his former residence in Marunda Pulo Cilincing in northern Jakarta has been turned into a museum to commemorate Pitung's noble deeds forever. And I must say, people, Pitung's story was one full of greatness and tragedy. When he had learned the most, when he thought he was at the top of the world, unstoppable and unbeatable, is when he was most reckless. And that got him and his gang, the thugs. But he gave the people hope and a taste of the Dutch wealth that has been wrongfully taken from the locals for the Dutch to enjoy themselves. Pitung's story shall be remembered in the hearts of all Jakartan locals, for he is the embodiment of strength and of resistance. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I don't know, but I think this is the last episode on the podcast, so I want to thank you very, very much for listening all the way through, all 6 episodes of the podcast. Yeah. I think that's all. I want to give a special thanks to my team. It was Albertine, Nicholas, who else? Albert, Yeselena, and Okta. Yeah, Okta too. I think Okta is in my group. I forgot. I'm sorry. But thanks. But without them, this team would have never worked out in the end. And I think that's all that I wanted to say. And well, yeah, thank you for listening. This is Gabriel Constantine Liong, student number 11. If you want to write that down for something special. Oh no. Goodbye. And thank you very much, of course, again. Bye bye.